Welcome to the Straight Red Card. One host is a bedwetter, and the other host is still afraid of elevators. Here they are, your hosts, Brett and Derek. Gentlemen. All right.
I'm taking dibs on the elevator.
Are you?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm the one that's afraid of elevators. So maybe I'm the bedwetter too.
Jump to it too quickly. No.
I was going to ask you that actually, but you beat me to it. Well, here we are. We took a week off, Brett, and that's not because we're lazy. Just occasionally, we can't do this all year long. We do have other things that occasionally come up in our lives. And so we took a week off, and I thought it was a good week to take the week off because not a whole lot happened, right? I mean, did we miss anything?
That's the thing. Yeah, and we can't make up our own topics, so we can, but...
Oh, yeah, we could. We could come on here and have a whole show on tattoos and why people should stop getting them at this point. But we won't do that.
And the various locations.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, Sag City. Anyhow, one of the big things that did and is coming up and is on everyone's radar, and especially in England, because it was in all the major papers and The Guardian and this paper and that paper. Anyhow, the major headline was Martin Jol urges top scorer Clint Dempsey to stick with Fulham. Well, I'm sure he would like Clint Dempsey to stick with Fulham, but it looks like, and this is totally unconfirmed, they're just rumors now. You had the Arsenal rumor pop up before, and then you had the Roma rumor pop up, and Martin Jol saying if a big club comes to get Dempsey, there's really, that's going to cause a lot of problems for us. I don't know if we can keep him. But, he brought up Berbatov as an example, but I don't think anybody's going to spend $30 million for Clint Dempsey. But then the rumor I heard about Roma being willing to spend $6 to $7 million, I just thought, what? That sounds small.
It is small. He's got 1 year left on his contract, and I don't know. It's whether or not it's a stigma still, I don't know. If they can they're trying to underscore American players, I don't know. But
I don't think so.
I think with the year that Dempsey's had, I think he warrants more than a $7 million bid. But then again,
maybe it's his age.
That's just me. And the age could be a big factor there.
29, 28? He's 29. That's right. So that might have something to do with it. But the guy, there are only a few guys that are outscoring him in the Premiership this season. And even today, even though he didn't score, Fulham still won 2-1, and they look like they're going to make a late charge for the top 7. Maybe that will suffice for Clint if they could find a way into UEFA or something like that. But he did make, at least in the past, he said, I want to play Champions League football, and I can't really blame him. But at the same time, he's got to be somewhat realistic in his former manager, one of his former managers, said, if he goes to a big major club, he's going to have to fight for a spot, and he may be sitting the bench a lot. And there's one thing about Clint Dempsey. He doesn't like to ride pine.
He doesn't. Well, he usually fights his way back onto the field. And that's the big thing I was going to bring up for this topic, is that, you look at it, if I was manager, I'd be presenting it as, if you don't re-sign with us, you're going to be looking at joining a new team during the World Cup qualification time. You're going to have to fight for a spot, and if you are riding pine, how is that going to affect your international status?
Right.
If he's sitting there, if he's not playing any of the games with his new club, how sharp is he going to be for the U.S. and will Klinsmann bench him if he's not, not getting playing time with this club? Let's say if he goes to Arsenal and he's getting 5 minutes at the end of a game or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Would he suffer internationally as well? That's a big thing too, and that's mind you, that's not quite club money. He's obviously gonna make tons more money playing for a club, but he will make some serious money, in the World Cup qualifications and the World Cup itself.
Right, and granted, okay, if that happens, he's still gonna make the team, the U.S. team, if he's playing for Arsenal. The question is, how ready is he going to be if he's riding a lot of pine? Now, The other thing that you do notice when you watch Fulham games this season is everybody's looking for Clint Dempsey. I remember when he started the first few seasons, I'd say, Clint Dempsey's sitting, he's right there, he's open. Pass it to him, pass it to him, pass it to him. Now you almost say they pass it to him too much, even when he's not even close to being open. They'll chip him in. Everybody's passing it to Clint Dempsey, which I love, and he's got to keep that in mind too. He's always going to be playing if he's on Fulham, and he'll be keeping sharp. And he's the guy in the middle, obviously he played out wide today, but even so, he cuts into the middle so much, he's practically another striker, and everybody is getting him the ball. So, if Dembele stays, if they can talk Murphy into staying, if they can continue to have that strong back four, minus Senderos, who is, I think you stay with Fulham. Maybe I'm being depressing to those who'd like to see him to leave, but that's what I think.
Well, as a career goes, I wouldn't make a change in my opinion. At this point, he's 29. This is his last. Most likely this is going to be his last World Cup hurrah. He's got to make the most of it.
Yeah.
And he's making good money at Fulham, although he's not making as big as money as he could. He could easily go to a Roma or an Arsenal and make serious cash in comparison.
Yep.
But it's just, he's going to have to uproot his life, move over, and he's going to have to fight from square one to be on the team. Although if a team is really going to bid for his services, most likely, they're hoping to utilize him, whether as a super sub or as a starter.
Right, and especially if you end up going to some place like Roma, there's some serious uprooting going on there. A lot less if you go to Arsenal.
And that's the thing. If he goes to Roma, it's going to be tough because this season it looks like they're probably not going to make Europa. But it's possible. They have a tough schedule ahead of him. But if he does go to Roma, if they're going to place a bid for him, they're going to try to play him. They're going to try to utilize him. The question is, do you want to leave the Premiership to go to Roma?
Right.
And I'm not sure if you want to or not, because
Fulham,
in all honesty, Fulham stands just as good a chance of making Europa as Roma does.
Well, it looks like they've got a shot, certainly, at getting into UEFA, a really good one if they continue this run. And Wigan was really hot coming into this game today, and granted, it was a last-second goal by Fulham, but the way he's working with his teammates there, I say stay. That's just me. But
I would say that too. But then again, if he's looking at his pocketbook,
well,
that can make a difference in a player's selection.
I bet you Fulham have made him a pretty good offer. In fact,
they have.
They have, and Martin Yule said so. He said, "This is the main priority I want to focus on. Can we keep him? We have made him a good offer." I should read this in Martin Yule style. We have to wait and see until the sub. He's much more gruff than that. But I told him yesterday that I would love him to stay here at least as long as I am here. Yeah, of course, selfish guy. All right, well, let's get to Grant Wall, because this ties into, his article ties into the whole Clint Dempsey theme, because he has, in his article, which is about the 15 best American performances overseas for U.S. internationals. And, of course, this is not surprising. He has Clint Dempsey's season with Fulham, 2011-2012 season, as number one. And then we kind of go down the list. DeMarcus Beasley 2 with PSV, then Tim Howard with Man U, then Brad Friedel with Blackburn, John Harkes with Sheffield Wednesday, Roy Wegerle way down in 7, surprisingly, after 19 goals, and then Casey Keller, Claudio Reyna's Rangers, 99-2000 Rangers stint, and then Michael Bradley with Heerenveen, Ernie Stewart, then with Willem II, Brian McBride with Fulham, John O'Brien, Alexi Lawless being number 14, and then he has Josie at 15. I don't know. This list looked okay to me. I didn't disagree with a whole lot of it. I did, however, disagree with two things. One, Roy Wegerle had a monster season with QPR. In that 91 season, scoring 19 goals. I would actually put him as number 2, and maybe, as you said, Grant's putting a lot more emphasis on the fact that DeMarcus Beasley, was playing Champions League soccer, and that's why he's 2, and yeah.
And that's my take on it. I mean, it's hard to argue with this selection because, I mean, quite frankly, those were all great seasons for the players. Mm-hmm. Whether or not you rate them as highly, because I know you're saying that you'd rather put certain players at higher places, mm-hmm. and even certain seasons, like you were talking about Reina's season.
Yeah, Claudio Reina's 97-98 season with Wolfsburg, mm-hmm. in a superior league to the Rangers, the league that Rangers plays in, obviously SPL. Not at the time it wasn't called that, but I mean he had 28 goals. 28. He played in 28 games and scored 4 goals in the Bundesliga in 97-98. To me, that's more impressive than the fact that they managed to squeak into the or Rangers managed to squeak into the group stage of Champions League that season. And he played about the same amount of games and scored the same amount of goals, almost. It's very comparable. But he played in a lot less of a league, if you ask me, when you're comparing the Scottish First Division with the Bundesliga.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It does show that he's putting a lot more emphasis on the Champions League performances as a whole. Yeah. And it, like I said, it's hard to argue the selection because it is a year. It's just a single year out of the player's career.
Right.
And I mean, when I first saw the list and I saw DeMarcus Beasley as number 2, I was like, wait, oh, yeah, that's right. He's looking at just a one single year. He's not looking at the whole career.
Right.
I mean, because if it was a whole career, I'd wonder how that would look.
Right.
In comparison, obviously some players would be shuffled around, some players might be added. Who knows?
Well, and Beasley also won the Dutch title that year, and so he's putting that in there as well.
Yeah, and it was a great year for him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not really complaining about where he's placed per se. I mean, maybe not necessarily number 2, but again, it's a year by year thing, and
yeah,
it's hard to argue, and it's hard to. I mean, you can come up with basically a shuffle.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can place it however you want. You might think Howard's
Everton's.
You listed Howard, or his emergence to Man United.
That was a good season, but it hasn't been as good, for example, as some of his seasons with Everton, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, he's taken into effect that him breaking Man U into the Man U lineup.
And playing in the Champions League.
And it is a massive accomplishment, I agree. But I agree with you on this fact that he has had some stellar seasons with Everton. And it's hard to pinpoint on one thing. I guess it's just the main accomplishment that he took a top team and he made it.
Yeah, I mean, and even
people are looking at it. We're just talking about Dempsey, and we're like, oh, is he going to go to a top team? Is he going to try to compete with the top team? But Howard's been there and he's done that.
Yeah. Well,
so it's hard to place it.
Well, there are other things in this. He has Thomas Dooley listed as 5th, and for the 90-91 Kaiserslautern, where he played for Kaiserslautern in the Bundesliga. And yeah, Thomas Dooley was great. He was consistent. He played very well. And then I'm looking, the honorable mentions section, Steve Cherundolo doesn't even get into this top 15. But if you ask me, Steve Cherundolo just look at how Hanover performed last year. And he's the captain of that freaking team. And you're not going to put Steve Cherundolo's accomplishments with Hanover and the way he played last year and the way he was the leader of that team over the fact that Thomas Dooley managed to, serve in the back line with Kaiserslautern and they got to 12th place in the Bundesliga. See, to me, things like that are inconsistent. And and I don't understand how you put one above the other. I think it's some effort on his part to include some of the old guys, from the last generation, and that's fine. But I don't think it's realistic, and nor do I think it's fair.
Well, and you bring up a good player to talk about. Cherundolo is a great player to talk about in this situation because when I mentioned if you look at a career of a player, you would have to place Cherundolo up there.
Yeah,
because he's had a wonderful European career.
But he's had some really good seasons as well.
He's had some really good seasons. I mean, whether or not they stand out enough for Wall to place in his top 15, obviously not.
Yeah.
But it is one of those things. Like you look at a pinpoint in a player's career compared to the whole thing, and that's my only take on it, really.
Right. No, I mean I totally understand that,